Welcome to the Scandinavian Mind podcast, our weekly show about the intersection of lifestyle and technology. Today on the program, a special report from Stockholm Design Week. Last week, the first fully physical Stockholm Design Week and Stockholm Furniture Fair took place for the first time in 3 years. Today, we are joined by a group of insiders from the Swedish design and interior industry to talk about the highlights from the week, some key trends, what sustainability innovation projects that caught our eyes, and an analysis of the state of the design industry. I'm Konrad Olsson, editor-in-chief and founder of Scandinavian Mind, and I'm here with my dear colleague, senior editor Johan Magnussin, and our two special guests, Stefan Nilsson, trend expert, and Lisa Marie Mannfolk Eklund, managing editor of Tidskriften Rum. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's so good to have you here. I think we should let's dive into it. I want to hear all of you, your general impressions of Stockholm Design Week. What did you take away? What are your impressions? Lisa, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, thank you. I thought it was great. I thought it was very well needed. It doesn't mean that I enjoyed everything and liked everything, and it doesn't even mean that I saw everything. Okay.
Stefan, what's your impression?
Well, this is my home turf, so of course I will endorse it. I think it's super important for us in Sweden to have this. Is it important for other people? Not so sure, but to me, it's a good design week and an important design fair. Absolutely.
So I want to get into, we all were sort of, scouring around the week, all the events, etc. You all more than me, and that's why I have the luxury of having you guys here. And there is, of course, something to talk about regarding the need for a design week. Why is it important, and what role is it playing? So, Lisa, maybe you can talk about some of the highlights during the week, either from the fair itself or from events around the week. What are some of your favorite things that happen?
I think first and foremost, I really liked meeting people away from keyboard again. I think that's super valuable. But having said that, I enjoyed TAF at Bukowski's quite a lot. I thought that was beautifully curated. Just really exquisite objects, a really good design, in my opinion, also calm atmosphere. But I also liked quite the opposite, which was Älvsjögård, which I thought was just, really gutsy and fun and colorful and generous and, all those kind of adjectives that you can use if you are really sparkly. I thought that was really life enhancing, but as well, I thought that was important because obviously it's not that important to please me, but those places, experimental venues and galleries, give sort of designers a platform to show things that not necessarily are put into production, where they can research and do fun things or fail at doing things or whatever. And I think it's really important to sort of force yourself onto uncharted territory once in a while. That is in itself a good thing. We don't know what's going to save the world. It might be the clown chair, in the back that's going to, go on to do some great things. So I thought that was really interesting.
So it should be noted that Älvsjögård, it was arranged by the fair, right? It's a building very close to the fair, and anyone who's been to the fair and taking the train there, always you've passed it for now. For me, it's almost 2 decades, and this is an old building adjacent to the fair. Stefan, were you there as well?
Yes, absolutely, of course. I think it's a super initiative, really, really nice. I think that the fair initiated some really good concepts, everything from the Älvsjögård to also the nude stands. So I would say that absolutely the fair itself during the design week is extremely important and prove itself being sort of like the platform on where this is standing. So yeah, the fair itself is super interesting. I also went around in town and saw some fairly interesting exhibitions. I would say they were smaller this year than other years, and also then of less importance than other years. But still, yeah, this is our home turf. This is the opportunity where we sort of like show Swedish design to the world, and I am emphasizing Swedishness rather than Scandinavianness, even though we saw some Scandinavian or Nordic initiatives, like for instance the Norwegians did some things, the Finnish did some things, but it's mainly a Swedish design week.
And isn't that, to me, is a kind of a takeaway from the week, that it felt more Swedish than ever. So I think that, like, the guest of honor was a Swedish designer, Front. That used to be always an international one. Obviously, I think there were quite significant downturn in terms of attendance of brands. Someone told me that we're about around 400 brands exhibiting. Used to be 700 pre-pandemic. So, and definitely less international brands. Would you agree that the whole fair felt less international than it used to?
I
Yeah.
heard higher numbers than you did,
Mm.
Konrad. So I heard around 600 exhibitors than 400. So, but still, there were less than usual.
Yeah.
But still, this is like early on. I mean, this is peak season for me. I'm traveling, so I'm constantly seeing different fairs, and every fair is getting smaller in one
Right.
sense or another. So this is like an international phenomena. We're not really back to normality yet. So I'm not surprised that we're having a smaller fair. But the visitors were like, they were like almost back to pre-pandemic. So the visitor numbers were really, really high and unexpected. I heard that as a criticism from other Scandinavian countries, that when we do this Scandinavian Design Week, we
Yeah.
tend to only show Swedish design. So, for instance, a lot of press is invited internationally to come to Stockholm to see this, and we only show Swedish brands. We only go to their showrooms. We only introduce Swedish designers. So how Scandinavian are we when we're welcoming them to see the Swedishness of things? So I think that's a lesson to be learned. You mentioned that the guest of honor were Swedish, and I think that top of mind, this should be absolutely from a different country in the Scandinavian region. Absolutely.
Do you think it matters that 3 days of design in Copenhagen has risen to become such? I mean, to me, when I speak to people in the industry, this seems, I mean, people talk about it as a tentpole event these days. Are you going to 3 days of design? It's definitely an event that people put in their calendars. Lisa, what's your impression of our Danish kind of counterpart? Are they stealing the thunder from Stockholm, do you think?
Yeah, I will definitely think so. I mean, it's a completely different vibe if you go there. I mean, you're not in February and you can just, be walking around the city, of course. And I think it's also a different thing without the fair. I mean, the fair gives something, but it also takes something away. And I think we really maybe should try to be something else, so we can coexist with 3 days of design. I think they've done a really good job, and we shouldn't do the exact same if we want to be relevant and interesting.
Yeah, well, of course, the whole design festival or activity in Denmark is extremely interesting to watch and follow. But don't forget, it's always been nice weather. I mean, the whole design experience is sort of like based on that. We're all there drinking wine and it's nice weather. And I think that we should not underestimate fairs, because fairs are extremely business driven. You're there to make business, while at the 3 days of design, you're there to socialize. And for me, when I'm there as a press and I'm attending, normally when I go to 3 days of design, I can see like 8 brands during a day. But at a fair, I'm able to see 48 brands during a day. So from an efficient perspective, I think that fairs are beating 3 days of design. But still, it's an important thing. Absolutely.
Good point. And let's pick up on that. I mean, there are rumors, or I know there's been talks at least, of moving the Stockholm Furniture Fair to another date because of this issue. I'm not sure how far along those plans are, or if they're even still exists. But the fact of the matter, we do have now a Stockholm Design Week that exists. Is it September or October? I think September, right?
Yeah, well, honestly, who knows? I think it's a good thing if they are just more clear in their communication. We can't have design weeks floating around all the time. I mean, it's super fun, and obviously we always love going. But you have to be clear in your communication so that people know when to show up.
Again, the whole international aspect is that you have fewer but better.
Yeah.
So fewer days. I think that Stockholm Design Week is now 5 days at least, and they should have it in 3 days. And you should not have 2 design weeks officially, not just one.
But
Good
I know
point.
how much you're running around, Stefan, and also you, Lisa. How would you manage to go to all the places if there were only 3 days?
Well, you can't.
choose.
Yeah,
You choose.
exactly. That's what editors do. You sort of
Yeah.
edit something away.
Yeah.
You have to go with your gut, with your favorite, what you think is going to be the best. So it's always going to be the problem. If you have 20 days, you're going to still have the same problem.
Stefan, you mentioned 48 brands in a day when visiting the fair. You are notoriously, I think, the most.
I'm Mr. Fair guy. I am.
Exactly. I know. When I see your keynotes, you always point that out.
Yeah.
At least pre-pandemic, you were traveling around at fairs. It feels like every other week. But so from a sort of trend expert's perspective, what could we assess from this design week? Did you see anything that can bundle up to trends that we can see?
Oh, absolutely. Where should we start? I saw that things are getting smaller. I thought that was interesting. Everyone's still talking about, are we going to be working from home, or are we going to be working from an office? Regardless, it's getting smaller because the desk is getting smaller. Also, of course, the desk chair is getting smaller. I mean, no one is having sort of like cabinets anymore. So everything's getting smaller. I also saw that textiles are growing enormously. So there were, for instance, in the greenhouse section, pillars that was made out of yarns. Stefan is showing in the image, as you can imagine. It's sort of like a fountain of yarn, and that's the pillar, a podium where you would put things on. So everything's extremely tight. Table legs were in textiles. Yeah, textiles. And of course, I think that if I don't mention it, Lisa Marie will do it, which is like colors. Meaning that we replace innovation, your favorite topic, with colors. No one's talking about new things, but instead you're talking about colors.
No one's talking about new things, Lisa.
Yes.
Would you agree to this? So, what have been on your eyes when you've watched the fair, and what are you looking for in terms of your readers? What are you looking for to service your readers with?
Well, our readers are mainly architects and designers, and I hope they had a chance to see it for themselves for some parts. But for the parts they didn't have the time, I hope to give sort of an overview, and they can make up their own mind because they are very notable. But I think colors as well, obviously. I think that's totally a thing you couldn't possibly miss. And I think that's tightly tied to another thing that I think I saw a lot of, that sort of design that's trying to say something about our time. I mean, like trying to say something about sustainability, maybe how we can save the world and what materials we can use, if we can have pure materials, if we can replace things from furniture and sort of live with them extra long. But I also think, colors can be escapism and fun as well as being, a quite easy way of updating something. So I think we saw a bit of both at the fair, actually.
You mentioned sustainability. I want to get into to this topic. Obviously, very important for us at Scandinavian Mind. We cover this at length. Johan, maybe you can give some of your observations from the week, from kind of the Scandinavian Mind filter. What were some of the projects that you saw that caught your eye?
No, so just to follow up on Stefan's what he mentioned, the greenhouse section, which you guys can probably describe it even better, but it's the special area for new and emerging designers and also design schools. And that was my favorite part of the entire fair. And also, of course, the new names, as in so many other creative industries, they are leading the way when it comes to the coming tendencies, so to say. So, for instance, at Scandinavian Mind, we've had a problem with the entire business, this industry, that the lack of innovation. And also the fact that the entire industry speaks about itself as sustainable because of the long-lasting products, which seems a bit outdated if you ask us. While in the greenhouse section, we finally saw some initiatives, or quite a lot of initiatives actually. We've seen it before, but those circular initiatives and that,
No, I must say I'm not either super convinced, but I think we
Let's
saw.
hear it.
I think we saw other interesting things at the fair. I mean, sometimes it's not a finished project because a lot of the high tech that I think that you like are material research, and it's still continuous. I mean, you know, at the Scandinavian Design Awards that the Rum family and the fair did together, we nominated 4i tiles, like tiles made from old ovens, I think, but it's not a product to be used yet. So it's just an interesting thing. But if I could pick sort of a few things from the fair that I thought was quite interesting when it comes to sustainability, and I'm not going to talk about all the wood, obviously, because, you know, you can say whatever.
Please do.
No. I think enough has been said about the wood, but I think like Verk, for instance, are trying to sort of, I mean, they are making things in wood, and it's very well researched, but I think the new thing they're trying to make right now, it's trying to make a sustainable paint from locally sourced natural ingredients, and they are working together with quite a big Swedish manufacturer to be able to do that. And I think that might actually be something.
But they're one player, Melissa.
Yeah, I know,
player.
but you can't disregard one player. We need
No,
the
no,
good
no,
example as well.
It's a madman's world.
Yes, but also that was my first example, Stefan.
Yeah.
I have more if you want to know them.
Yeah. Please give it to me.
Yes, I will.
I'm waiting.
Yes, and here it comes. I really enjoyed Normada Design. You know, Johanna Westerberg. You know, she makes these chairs out of it's 3D printed. But the fun and interesting part with her project, I think, is that you can actually reuse it. Say you buy this chair for your dining room, or I don't know what you have in your apartment, and a few years later, it's like, okay, goodness gracious, I'm getting a divorce. I'm not needing a dining table. I'm needing something else, a super tiny chair or whatever, or a table.
Or you're old and fat, you need a larger chair.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever you need. You can just bring it back, and they can reuse that actual material and make something new. I thought that was really interesting. You know, that was quite an innovation, if you ask me. But I also liked, you know, on the other end of the spectrum, we have this really old, super old Swedish drömtrappor. You know, it's been around for 100 years. They make wooden staircases. And now they asked Alex Lervik to do a design for them. And he came up with a design where you can sort of change one step if it gets broken or worn down. And I think, you know, sort of being able to replace something without throwing the whole thing away, that's really a smart thing to do. That's really innovation as well.
I do agree, Lisa Marie, but I think we need more.
Yes,
of that.
And of course we do.
You talked about the only. I mean, out of 600 exhibitors, you mentioned like the only 2 ones who made an intellectual or intelligent thinking.
Wasn't that a good pick then?
Yeah, well, yeah. What do you consider?
Stefan, I hear a fair amount of skepticism from you. What's your take on this? What's your take on sustainability in the Swedish design industry?
I think that everyone wants more. I saw an outcry actually on social media where someone who was visiting wanted more, and I think that we all want more. I think that one thing that Lisa Marie sort of like is not mentioning now is the exhibition. There was a specific exhibition done by Emma Olbers, which is about carbon dioxide. It's super difficult to say in English. Carbon dioxide, and that's one angle. And I think that we need more, and that we want clearer guidance. And you touched on the topic of like we can't have an industry saying like, oh no, we make sustainable things because they're long lasting. Not good enough anymore. Not good enough. I'm not.
And also getting
honestly,
quite tired of. We've had so many years and so many chances to change something, but we keep on just talking and wishing.
But the thing that I want to give credit for the fair, I do want to give credit to the fair because I think they were. I mean, again, I said that I do my millions of fair per year, and I don't think I've ever seen a fair itself being so sustainable as they have been. So I think they need credit for that. Meaning then, Lisa Marie, I know you're pointing the finger at me now.
Yes, I am.
But I think that the nude collection, the nude side, there was nude gallery or whatever it was called, which was sort of like with a whole area with plain stands with sustainable materials. I mean, we saw that in Milan, but they skipped that. They had the opportunity to do that as a standard in Milan, but they skipped that. And now you can see it again in Stockholm. And I don't see anyone doing that. They educate people with the exhibitions, like with
We should
Emma.
explain exactly what that was. And let's keep, Lisa, we can come back to you. But
okay.
This was a new stand concept where the actual stands, meaning the walls and the floors and so forth, were of more sustainable materials and also be able to recycle.
Exactly, and not the content. So, for instance, there were
Exactly.
exhibitors who were part of this, but to the actual stands itself. So again, as a fair organizer, they take responsibility and try to do stands for people so that they are sustainable, and I like that.
And I like that as well, but I think that's it's a starting point, because I actually, and I'm really sorry to say that, I find that to be the sort of least inspiring part of the entire fair. And it breaks my heart to say that. And also, you know, I know they are talking a lot about sustainability at the fair, and it's also a good starting point. But, you know, they just tore it down. I have no idea how sustainable it was. We have to wait and see what the sort of the takedown is, because it's so easy to say that you want to do a responsible fair, but it's my caveat when it comes to this. You know, the fair itself, it is a problem when we talk about sustainability. There is some inherent problems with getting all these people in the same room, just, you know, for 3 days or 5 days or however long.
No.
Yes.
I think the problem here is that we actually need a certain section for this kind of concept. And yeah, also the constant discussion, like shouldn't all the fair stands look like this? But then again, as you point out, Lisa Marie, like it's quite uninspiring. I went to one of the trade fairs in Copenhagen 2 weeks ago, and yeah, it looked similar because all of the stands looked the same due to sustainability, because of the UN goals. They want to come closer to reach the UN goals, or help the brands to do that as a trade fair. So it's a similar initiative. But it becomes quite uninspiring, and yeah, I don't want to see like a complete fair look like this. I want to see the brands taking their responsibility, not to tear down their stand and not reuse it afterwards. I think it's a problem that we need this kind of concept in order to raise a discussion about it.
Let's leave the debate on how the stand is sort of I'm sorry, how the fair is doing from a sustainability perspective, and look at some of the individual brands and projects. So there were a few exhibitions. We mentioned Emma Olberg, which I think was a wonderful exhibition. Obviously, mostly directed to other designers, I guess. She had done exhibition of materials where each material represented 1 kilo of carbon dioxide released in the atmosphere. So, one small piece of aluminum, or a bigger piece of recycled aluminum, and so forth. Did you see any other projects related to sustainability from some of the brands or designers? Johan, maybe you saw a few?
Yeah, and also I just want to mention that yeah, I did a short interview with Emma, and it's part of a list published on our website with yeah, 5 innovators from Stockholm Design Week. I found 5. I could have picked like 20, because when you reach out to people and speak to them, quite a few concepts are actually quite sustainable. And yeah, I still want to point out the greenhouse section as being the most progressive and thought-provoking. So for me, that was the highlight, as I mentioned. But you can have you can take Vestre and the Note Design Studios continuous collaboration. They won the best stand last edition of the fair 2020, and this time they've worked again for the 3rd consecutive time. And part of the stand was actually rented from a manufacturer, so they borrowed it from the, I think it was the flooring manufacturer. So yeah, that's also, but it's such a small step. But in this industry, obviously all the small steps count.
I have one idea or a thought that sort of like impressed me,
Go ahead.
which was also down in the gallery. We talked about the nude section, so now we separate the areas. So nude section where the stands were in a fixed format, and then we have a gallery which was basically someone picked out things on town that they thought were interesting and showed them. I thought that was also a nice gesture from the fair as an organizer. And there I found Finn Ahlgren doing sort of like a concept about what do we do with all the flaws in things, and what do we do when I get tired of things. And I think that I need bigger thinking. That's because we started this conversation by saying like everything is about material and specifically about wood. But everything is about material. But I think that we need more thinking. Lisa Marie, you mentioned the girls with the 3D printed chairs. I can't remember what the name were.
Normada.
Normada design, yeah.
So one of the things I do, so the whole concept of like replacing things and giving back things, or have the print of the actual chair being sent somewhere else, and you can print it in another country. I think I need more of these thinking if we want to be forward looking.
Yeah.
And that was really a few projects like this.
But I think also the fair is maybe not the best way to show your environmental and your sustainable work, because you have like 2 minutes and people are going to lose interest and move on. So I think when you sort of, as you said, Johan, when you interview people or you go to the factory and you get to hang out with people, you sort of get a better, more nuanced view of how they work. So that's what I hope to do. I mean, I was invited to so many factories when I went around, because people are really proud of, being locally made and whatever. And it's first when you're actually there that you can see that, okay, is it BS or is there something here?
Well, Lisa Marie, because you're clearly servicing the architects and designers with the magazine Tidskriften Rum. How would you, what are the reactions from the industry, from the designers, from the architects that you've met and perhaps talked to? Are they happy with the Design Week and the fair? Are they inspired by it?
Yes, I would say just a big fat yes. I think it was so important to just meet each other. I mean, you have to understand design is as a collaborative venture. It's like you do it for the user and you need to be around people for it to be a proper product. I mean, it's not art for art's sake. So I think it was really valuable for them to just, meet other people in the industry, apart from the people they are working closest with. So I've heard good and bad about it, but mostly I think people are just really happy it's back on again.
Stefan, what's your take on the temperature out on town, or at the cocktails, or in the stands?
I would comment the fair by saying, like, I talked to as many exhibitors as I could.
Yeah.
I of course didn't talk to everyone, but I think that out of these 600 that we mentioned, I talked to a lot of them, and 2 were negative, but everyone else were super happy. I mean, they were making business and they were meeting people, and I think that it's important especially for the Swedish sort of like self-esteem, say like, but people were really happy.
Right.
The most common thing that people mentioned were like they were missing some brands. You also mentioned that, Konrad, and now my first question, or my immediate response to that is, of course, who are you missing? And then you're missing the Danes, obviously. The Danes are now focusing on 3D design, and you're missing like 7 at the most Swedish brands who are not there. But overall, I mean, everyone was super happy. Visitors were more complaining than the actual exhibitors who were doing business. I think it's important to emphasize.
It was a really interesting observation. Let's end with a bit of optimism. That's what we like to do here at Scandinavian Mind. Maybe talking ahead of this year 2023, what are you looking forward to the most? Could be things you saw at the fair, but also other events or other things happening. I'm going to go all around now. Lisa Marie, I'm going to start with you.
I'm actually mostly looking forward to all the factory visits that I just talked about. I really love visiting the factories and seeing where the products are born and, talking to the designers where they are most at home.
Do you have a favorite?
Factory?
Favorite factory you can mention.
No, I haven't. I haven't been yet. So I'm just really looking forward to going to Gemla, to Källemo, and to a few others who are kind enough to extend an invitation.
Yes, as well. Should be nice. I mean, down by
yes,
Skåne.
I would
wonderful.
love that.
Stefan, what does your itinerary look like 2023? Is it?
I mean, I think that Lisa Marie started by saying like meeting people, and of course I also met like lots and lots of nice people. And one of the most interesting talks I had was with IKEA, the previous design director Marcus Engman, and he was talking about the new retail they're doing. And I assume that everyone knows that H&M and IKEA is now collaborating. 2 of the largest brands in retail in the world are now collaborating and doing something jointly. I think that's super interesting, and I think that we need sort of like these good examples of people who are doing retail and experiments and positivity.
They're doing a joint retail space together?
Yeah.
Wow.
Atelier 100. It's open. It's actually open in London, and I'm going next week, Konrad.
Wow.
Do you want to come?
No, I'm not. I don't want to come, but you can come back and talk about it on the show. I know H&M and IKEA have been collaborating on new innovations and investing in companies around textile recycling, that sort of thing.
Atelier100.com. You can Google it afterwards. It's super interesting.
Wonderful. Johan, I'm going to ask the same question to you. Obviously, you have more part of this feed, this podcast, or our news feed on a daily, weekly basis. From a design point of view, what are you looking forward to in the weeks and months to come?
Yeah, so just to follow up on all the people you met, and I focused this time quite a lot on the new names to watch. We will include at least one of them in our upcoming print magazine, and also,
Who? I want to know who. Give me names, Johan.
It's yet to be disclosed, but also, again, quite interesting circular initiatives. We have a company. It's more of a material supplier, or called Solaris. They're based in Gothenburg, and they had curated an exhibition in the you can't say this in English, but Hall A. Let's say it like that, Hall A. But about circularity, and looking forward to discover more about their solutions and other circular initiatives and the new names to watch.
All right, for me, who didn't have the chance to visit and see as much as I hoped during Stockholm Design Week and Stockholm Furniture Fair, this has been a treat to have you guys walking through some of the best examples and also talking about the state of the industry. This has been the Scandinavian Mind podcast. Don't forget to sign up to our newsletter. Visit scandinavianmind.com/newsletter not to miss out on any content and upcoming events. Lisa Marie, Stefan, and Johan, thank you so much for speaking to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.